I need to alert you about something that might be happening to you or someone in your family, and no one's noticing. But when we do see it, it might already be too late. Have you ever called your child by your sibling's name? Or completely forgotten where you put your wallet, even though you just had it in your hands? Many people think this is just fatigue or a sign of aging. But what if it's more than that? Imagine your brain is sending out signals that something is changing slowly, almost silently. But right now, you're too busy to notice. It's just a bad night's sleep, just a bit of work stress, just an unusual kind of tiredness. And the days go by, one after the other, until one day something shuts down. Something that had been quietly asking for attention all along. Today, I'm going to show you 13 signs that many people ignore, but that could point to the onset of dementia. Signs that don't only show up in memory. They reveal themselves in how someone walks, the way they speak, even in how food tastes. And more importantly, I'll tell you what you can start doing today to protect your mind. Because yes, some of these signs are reversible. And the earlier we notice them, the better our chances of slowing or stopping the progression. If health over 60 is something that matters to you, take this moment to subscribe to the channel. Let's begin with one of the strangest signs, one that most people never associate with the brain: the way someone walks. Have you noticed someone close to you starting to walk more slowly, dragging their feet, or hunched over without any clear reason? Be aware that changes in walking, when not linked to joint or spine problems, can point to neurological shifts. A study in Japan found that walking speed can predict the risk of cognitive decline up to 5 years in advance. The second sign often goes unnoticed even by doctors: loss of smell and taste. That person who used to love the smell of freshly brewed coffee suddenly says they can't smell anything. Or that food tastes bland, even with seasoning. This isn't just a strange detail. It's one of the first documented signs of Alzheimer's disease. The brain starts to lose its ability to interpret sensory signals from the environment before it even affects memory. Then comes the third sign: a recent change in sleep. We're not talking about someone who's always been a poor sleeper. The focus here is on those who used to sleep well and now wake up several times during the night, or get up tired even after 8 hours in bed. Sleep apnea, for example, causes small interruptions in breathing at night, reduces oxygen to the brain, and directly impacts mental clarity the next day. Even more concerning, it increases the risk of dementia by up to 70%, according to a study from the University of California. Another surprising symptom is loss of hand strength. Yes, it may sound simple, but it's not. That weaker handshake, trouble opening jars, or difficulty holding on to things firmly could point to more than just natural muscle loss. Science has shown that grip strength is directly linked to brain health. An American study published in JAMA Neurology followed older adults for 10 years and concluded the lower the muscle strength, the higher the risk of developing dementia. And the fifth sign is one that can fool even those closest to the person: apathy. They begin losing interest in things they used to enjoy. They no longer want to go out, talk, or laugh at the same jokes. It may seem like simple discouragement, but it's not just a passing sadness. It's as if a light has slowly gone out. This emotional shutdown can be a warning sign of deep changes in the brain. Each of these signs alone may seem harmless, but together they tell a story. A story that, if caught in time, can have a very different ending. Now imagine this: you're at the store trying to make simple change. You bought something for $13, paid with a $50 bill, and freeze. You can't figure out how much you should get back. This kind of everyday situation, once so easy, suddenly takes a huge effort. That's the sixth sign: struggling with basic math. Here's the thing: We're not talking about someone who's always been bad with numbers. We mean someone who used to handle math well and now gets confused even adding or subtracting small amounts. This happens because the part of the brain responsible for calculations is affected in the early stages of dementia. That's why even basic tests like subtracting 7 from 100 are used in clinics to assess cognitive function. The seventh sign is the one many people first notice: recent memory loss. Someone who can recall the name of their childhood dog, but forgets where they just put their glasses. They forget appointments, conversations from the same morning, or whether they've had lunch. This shows that short-term memory is so essential. For daily life is starting to fail. It's important to remember that there are different types of dementia. In Alzheimer's, recent memory loss is often the first noticeable symptom. But in other types, like vascular dementia, the signs may be more diffuse: slowed thinking, trouble with simple tasks, and even motor changes. That's why you shouldn't wait for the classic memory lapses to start paying attention. This brings us to a more painful point: forgetting the names of close family and friends. That's the eighth sign. We're not talking about forgetting the name of a distant cousin who only shows up at Christmas. We mean forgetting the name of a daughter, a grandchild, or the neighbor you talk to every day. The person is corrected, but keeps getting it wrong. Or they avoid saying names altogether, as if they know they'll make a mistake. That's hard to watch. It's painful to see someone you love get lost in names that should be deeply familiar. But it's also a warning sign that must be taken seriously. The ninth sign is confusion about time and space. The person gets lost in familiar places, can't tell if it's June or November, mixes up the seasons. A man who always knew the way from his house to the bakery now stands at the corner, unsure which way to go. This type of disorientation is one of the classic signs of more advanced dementia, but it can show up earlier, sometimes as small memory slips about dates or confusion with the time of day. The 10th sign affects speech. It's not just that someone becomes quieter or less talkative. It's that they lose fluency. Sentences are left unfinished, simple words disappear from memory, or they repeat themselves, unaware they just said the same thing. A simple conversation becomes a challenge, and often loved ones notice this before the person does. Then there's the 11th sign, a particularly dangerous one: risky behavior. The person starts doing things that are unsafe without realizing it. They forget the stove is on, leave the front door unlocked, or try to cross the street without looking. Sometimes they put things in odd places like the TV remote in the freezer. These actions show that judgment is impaired. And that's a neurological symptom, not just clumsiness. The 12th sign may seem subtle, but has a real impact on safety. Difficulty interpreting visual information. The person can't understand traffic signs, product labels, or gets confused by maps and directions. For someone who still drives, this can be very dangerous. But even at home, it's a concern like pressing the wrong stove button or not recognizing the bathroom door. And finally, the 13th sign is one of the hardest for families: a change in personality. That sweet, gentle person may become irritable, impatient, or even aggressive for no clear reason. They might grow suspicious, thinking others are hiding things or doing something against them. For many loved ones, this is the most painful part because it feels like the person has disappeared. But this change isn't intentional. It's part of the neurological process and deserves compassion and care. All these signs have something in common. They're often mistaken for normal aging, quirks, or even laziness. But if we pay attention, they tell a story that can be changed. If you know what to do. After learning about these 13 signs, you might be wondering, okay, but now what? What can I do? The good news is that there are practical and accessible steps you can take that make a real difference. The first step is simple, yet often overlooked. Rule out reversible causes. Not every symptom that looks like dementia means the brain is actually deteriorating. There are treatable conditions that can mimic these signs. And the first step is getting a thorough medical evaluation. For example, did you know that a vitamin B12 deficiency can cause confusion, memory loss, and even mood changes? It's true. This vitamin is essential for neuron health. And many people especially. Over 50 have low levels without knowing it. It's more common in those with stomach issues, frequent antacid use, or restrictive diets. The good news? It's treatable with proper diagnosis and supplementation. Another key factor is the thyroid. When it underperforms, a condition called hypothyroidism, the entire body slows down. And so does the brain. A person becomes sluggish, unfocused, forgetful. It can feel like depression or fatigue, but it may just be a hormonal imbalance. And this too is reversible if treated in time. There's more. Syphilis, an old, rarely discussed infection, can still cause dementia in adults. Often it progresses silently, without clear symptoms, and only shows up after it has already affected the brain. A simple blood test can detect and treat it. And a vital point, sleep apnea. Beyond disrupting rest, it deprives the brain of oxygen night after night. People who snore loudly, wake up tired, or have fragmented sleep may be living with this condition without realizing it. A sleep study can identify it, and with proper treatment, it's possible to restore not just sleep quality, but also mental clarity. When these conditions are treated, symptoms that resemble dementia can sometimes be completely reversed. But timing is everything. The earlier the diagnosis, the better the chance of preventing permanent damage. Now, the second step is building your cognitive reserve. That means training your brain like a muscle. An active, stimulated brain that takes on new challenges, builds new neural connections. And those connections are your shield against decline. How do you do that? In many ways, by learning a new language, doing crossword puzzles, reading books, playing chess, watching videos like this, and most importantly, reflecting on what you've learned. Sharing your understanding, explaining it to someone, leaving a comment below. These all help reinforce and strengthen your brain's connections. Study published in Lancet Neurology followed older adults for over 20 years and found that those who kept their minds active were less likely to develop dementia, even if they had unfavorable genetic factors. The brain has an incredible ability to adapt, but it needs constant stimulation. Here's a secret. The brain loves novelty. Taking the same route every day, watching the same shows, talking to the same people, that doesn't challenge the brain. But changing up your routine, trying a new hobby, learning something new, that's what keeps your mind sharp. The third step may be the most powerful. Adopting a brain-friendly lifestyle. What you eat, how you move, how well you sleep, and how you manage stress all have a direct impact on your mental health. Foods rich in healthy fats like avocado, nuts, olive oil, and cold water fish help protect brain cells. Omega-3s, for example, have anti-inflammatory properties and are linked to a reduced risk of Alzheimer's. On the flip side, ultra-processed foods high in trans fats, sugar, and sodium do the opposite. They trigger inflammation and impair cognition. Regular physical activity also plays a crucial role. It increases blood flow to the brain, reduces the risk of diabetes and high blood pressure, two major enemies of mental health, and boosts the production of BDNF, a protein that protects and stimulates the growth of new neurons. And here's a striking fact. Physically active people are up to 40% less likely to develop dementia, according to a study from the University of Cambridge. And you don't have to become an athlete. Brisk walks, bodyweight exercises, dancing, climbing stairs, it all counts. These steps are like bricks. You can start building your brain's protection today. And the sooner you start, the stronger your foundation will be. Now, take a moment and think, what does your daily routine look like? Do you move your body every day? Make conscious food choices? Get quality sleep? Because your lifestyle is the environment your brain lives in. And what goes neglected in the body will eventually show up in the mind. The truth is, the brain doesn't age in isolation. It ages alongside your habits. And that brings us to a point many still underestimate: the link between muscle mass and brain health. Have you ever heard of sarcopenia? It's the progressive loss of muscle mass and strength over time. But it's not just about appearance or mobility. Losing muscle is directly tied to cognitive decline. A weak body affects balance, energy, metabolism, and the brain feels all of that. In a study from the University of Sydney, researchers followed older adults for several years and found that those with greater muscle mass had better cognitive performance even in advanced age. That's because muscles release substances that protect neurons and improve communication between brain cells. So if you're over 60, start adding intentional movement to your routine today. It could be a daily walk, morning stretches, or bodyweight resistance exercises. And if possible, work on building strength with professional guidance. You don't have to lift heavy weights at the gym, but your body does need to be challenged out of a sedentary state. If you're thinking, but I'm too old for this, let me tell you, you're not. The body responds to movement at any age. What matters is consistency, not intensity. It's your daily habits, not a once-in-a-while weekend marathon, that count. And here's another powerful ally for your mind: social interaction. People who live in isolation have a higher risk of developing dementia. That's because human contact, conversation, emotional connections, all of these stimulate the brain. When you share memories, listen to stories, laugh, or work through conflict, you're keeping your brain active. So nurture the relationships around you. Friends, family, neighbors, community groups, churches, senior centers. Stay connected, even in small ways. Isolation isn't just about loneliness. It's a neurological risk factor. And we can't finish without talking about alcohol and smoking. Excessive alcohol consumption is linked to actual brain shrinkage, literally. And smoking reduces blood flow to the brain, raises blood pressure, and speeds up neuron degeneration. These two habits, unfortunately common, drastically increase the risk of dementia. If you smoke or drink frequently, consider seeking help. And if someone close to you still thinks it's just a little habit, show them this video. It might be exactly what they need to hear to make a change. But it's not just science saying all this. It's also the real-life stories of people who faced the scare and turned things around. I remember Mrs. Marline, age 68, whom I saw years ago. Her daughter brought her in, concerned about an unusual apathy. Marlene, who had always been active, seemed disinterested, forgetful, distant. After a few simple tests, we found 3 things. She had a B12 deficiency, sleep apnea, and hypothyroidism. With treatment, changes in her diet, and a few daily adjustments, not only did she regain interest in her hobbies, she also resumed her painting classes, which she had previously given up. Her memory improved, her energy returned, and the spark in her eyes came back. Not every story ends like that, but in many cases, there is a way back as long as we don't ignore the signs. And look, none of what we've discussed requires magic, formulas, or expensive solutions. It takes attention, action, and consistency. So if you've made it this far, you're likely someone who cares about what's ahead, someone who doesn't want to be caught off guard, someone who prefers to prevent, observe, and take action. And that kind of mindset changes lives. Now, with everything we've covered, you have in your hands a map clear, practical, and doable to protect your memory, your independence, and your identity. Let's recap what really matters. First, there are subtle warning signs that appear long before obvious memory loss. Changes in walking, sense of smell, muscle strength, behavior, and sleep are all ways your brain asks for help. And now, you know how to recognize those signs in yourself and in those around you. Second, not every symptom is final. There are reversible, treatable conditions that mimic dementia. Ignoring them can be costly. That's why simple tests like blood work and thyroid checks need to be part of your routine, especially after age 50. Sometimes that mental fog has a name, a treatment, and a cure. Third, the brain needs to be challenged, stimulated, and cared for. Building cognitive reserve is like reinforcing a house's foundation. The stronger the base, the harder it is for anything to shake it. And that's done through reading, learning, creativity, curiosity, through conversations, sharing, questioning, through the desire to keep growing, no matter your age. Fourth, your lifestyle is either your biggest ally or your biggest risk. A diet rich in healthy fats, quality sleep, regular physical activity, preserved muscle mass, strong social connections, and cutting out harmful habits, these all form your brain's protective shield. And what do all these pillars have in common? They depend on you, not the government, not your insurance, not your genetics, you. The choices you make today, the habits you decide to repeat tomorrow. Maybe you know someone who's already showing signs. Or maybe you felt that your own memory isn't what it used to be. Don't wait for it to get worse. Don't accept it as normal. Seek help. Get tested. Talk to your loved ones. Change what you can. Because in many cases, the future is still wide open. And if you think you're alone on this journey, know that you're not. Thousands of people, every day, are facing the same fears, the same doubts, the same desire to hold on to what matters most, their clarity. Ordinary people, just like you and me, who refuse to lose their identity without a fight. When I share content like this, I receive stories. Like Mrs. Cecilia, who started theater classes at 72 and said she's never felt more alive. Or Mr. Amaro, who gave up a sedentary lifestyle, lost weight, gained strength, and started remembering his grandkids' names again. Or Patricia, who took her mother to the doctor after watching a video like this, only to find out the forgetfulness was due to a vitamin B12 deficiency. Each of these stories reminds me why it's worth talking about this, why it's worth insisting. Because information saves lives. And when it comes to dementia, it saves memories. It saves relationships. It saves dignity. But I can't do this alone. Which is why I'm asking you something now. If this content opened your eyes in any way, share it. Send it to that friend who's been forgetful. To that family member who always says, "It's just old age." To that coworker who's always tired but never got checked out. You might be the bridge between today and a better future for someone. Have you noticed any of these signs in yourself or someone close to you? I'd love to hear your story. Your experience could inspire others to get help at the right time. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If health over 60 matters to you, this is the place to be.